Today was to be a busy day around Rome, starting with an early visit to St. Peter's Basilica in Vatican City. It's still used for daily services and commemorations, but when you enter the main part, you lose a sense of scale, especially when looking at the dome. And then you see people walking around the edge of it. And then there's gold everywhere. And some beautiful marble. But of course, there's more than one dome. This is Pita carved by Michelangelo in 1498. Of course, there are many of the popes buried here. Outside, the queues had lengthened somewhat. From here we were heading for the Colosseum, past some ruins, and also the Circus Maximus. This is where the chariot races used to be held. The Colosseum is a very impressive building. Inside, you could see the underfloor workings. These included a lift. Later in the day, we headed for the Vatican Museum. This is actually the border between Italy and Vatican City. The museum is quite huge and multiple floors, and the opulence inside is breathtaking. There are many ancient statues. And of course the ceilings are exquisitely painted. And these are actually paintings, beautifully done. We visited the map room, where there are many ancient ornate wall maps. And there seems to be a lot of gold on the ceilings and walls. turned through another level, through many rooms on the way to the Sistine Chapel, where no photographs were allowed. And then we took the famous spiral staircase. On Wednesday, we headed north to Florence, and we left Rome early so that we could arrive at the lookout above Florence in time for an early lunch, before we went for a walk through the old city. First stop was the Cathedral of Santa Maria de Flore. This is a 13th century building, but they end up not being finished till 1436. We continued along some streets to the Palazzo Vecchio. This is actually a 13th century fortified palace. And there are many statues in the Piazza della Signoria. Later we arrived at the Basilica de Santa Croce. From here we walked over to the Ponte Vecchio, which means old bridge. This medieval bridge has shops on it. Now these shops were all originally butchers, but today there are many jewelers and souvenir shops. Today we're headed for the coast and Pisa before going on to Monaco, then on to Nice. We arrived early at Pisa and got the road train to the entrance where the whole site opened up. The baptistry of St. John started in 1152. And the cathedral was built in the 11th century, and actually it's been restored many times. Construction of the tower started in the 12th century but was not completed till the 14th century. And you can see the foundations had moved. It's about a metre difference. Of course we had to have a ubiquitous photograph taken. From here we'll be driving along the E80 to Monaco with multiple bridges and 140 tunnels, past Carrara, where marble is quarried through these mountains. From here it was on through Genoa, and a couple of hours later we arrived in Monaco. At the top of the lift at the museum I saw a nice two-man sub. This had been used for research into red coral. And from the square there were good views down into the harbour. Now on one side of the square is the Royal Palace. And on the other side, some very nice accommodation. Then we walked through some of the back streets to do some shopping. Soon it was time to leave Monaco and head for our hotel in Nice. Friday was to be spent looking around Nice. In the morning we walked down to the waterfront and then walked along the Promenade de l'Anglaise. But these stony beaches are not really what we are used to. But there were lots of nice hotels along the waterfront. In the afternoon, we drove out to the hilltop town of Saint-Paul-de-Vence. All the walls are there and the narrow streets for fun to walk along. From the ramparts, there were great views to the mountains. And then we took a few more of the back streets. Very nice. We drove across the roads high above Nice on our way to dinner at La Turbie. The views were great. This apparently has some of the most expensive real estate in the world. We arrived at La Turbie and immediately saw the Trophy de Augustus's trophy, which celebrates his conquest of Gaul tribes between 25 and 14 BC. And then the restaurant owner took us for a private walk through the old town. The views down to Monaco were superb, as was the dinner. Now Saturday was to be a long haul through France, starting only at Avignon, where we arrived just in time to head up to the old town to get some lunch in the produce market. Being a Saturday, it was pretty busy. But then we could sit outside and eat it. Then we did a bit more exploring. We just loved this false window. We arrived back at the main square to lots of activity, and Brian, outside the Opera House, looking on. And amongst all this, we came upon a fighter aircraft promoting an air show for the following day. But we were delighted to see this old musical man. We wandered through to the Papal Palace and Fortress that in the 14th century was actually the centre of power, rivaling the Vatican. And then we went down to the river to see the famous medieval bridge and the small chapel to St. Nicholas. When we reached Beaune in the late afternoon, we took a walk through the old walled town, famous for its patterned roofs. Beaune is actually the main centre for Burgundy wines. Then we walked back along the wall, back to the hotel. Sunday was to be our last travelling day, up to Paris and a visit to Versailles. Thankfully, we didn't have to join the long queues to get in. We got a bit tired of the pushy crowds, so after we'd visited the Hall of Mirrors, we headed off to look round the gardens. Now the gardens really are splendid, and you could get lost in them. And we found a fountain that was synchronized to music. As we walked on, we went past the orangery. Obviously, they loved their oranges. So we climbed up these steps for a better view. All in all, another nice day in Paris. Now today was for looking around Paris, going to the Louvre, Notre Dame, the Eiffel Tower, and of course the Arc de Triomphe. First up was the Louvre. This, of course, was the old palace before Versailles was built, and it shows in its detail. Now, the Arc de Triomphe de Carousel was built in 1806, and it's about half the size of the one on the Champs-Élysées. From here we went to the Notre Dame. This is one of my favourites. This frieze showing the story of Christ, it wasn't on display last time we were here. Then we headed to the Eiffel Tower, and we took the lift up to the second floor. Great views to the top of the tower from here. And also across the city. We could look down the Champ de Mars to the military college. All too soon, we were taking the lift back down. The Arc de Triomphe is a great building. And of course, it's the grave of the French unknown soldier. But the real fun here is watching the traffic going around it. Somehow it works. Now on Tuesday our flight to Dubai did not leave till 10 PM, so we took the metro to Sacré-Cœur and Pigalle. We climbed the steps up to Sacré-Cœur and took a walk around the cathedral. And then we walked around some of the more old-type Paris areas. Now we could have caught the funicular railway back down, but we chose to take the steps as the final activity in our time in Europe.